In this episode today, I'm going to take you through the full story of podcasting, how it went from the internet fringe to the mainstream, how creators and brands are building empires with a microphone, outcompeting traditional media, why B2B brands are taking advantage of this opportunity to drive pipeline, and why this moment right now might be the most important time in the history of the medium of podcasting. When Steve Jobs introduced podcasts to iTunes in 2005, there were 8,000 shows.
8,000 podcasts now, and this is growing really, really fast.
Today, there are over 5 million podcasts and more than 70 million episodes. When he walked on stage, Jobs said,
Podcasting, of course, is a concatenation of iPod and broadcasting. And what is podcasting? It's been described a lot of different ways. One way has been TiVo for radio. You can download radio shows and listen to them on your computer or put them on your iPod anytime you want. So it's just like television programs on TiVo. And that's true. Another way it's been described is Wayne's World for radio, which means that anyone without much capital investment can make a podcast, put it on a server, and get a worldwide audience for their radio show. And that's true too. We see it as the hottest thing going in radio.
Before podcasts, you had radio, you had ads, you had unpredictable content. Your host was strictly timed to a specific time of day on a specific day of the week. But with podcasts,
you can not only download radio shows and listen to them, you can subscribe to them. So that every time there's a new episode, it automatically gets downloaded to your computer. You can listen to it there, or it automatically gets synced to your iPod the next time you dock your iPod.
That's a reminder, actually. I have less than 352 days to reach our goal of hitting 100,000 subscribers. We're currently at around 200, so we have 99,800 to go. So you know what to do. Help us out. Steve Jobs and Apple didn't invent podcasting, but they helped the format to explode in the early days with iTunes. And that was the first wave. Let's rewind a little bit further. Back in 2000, Adam Curry, a former MTV video jockey, wanted to get internet onto his iPod. He teamed up with David Winner, a software developer who'd built the RSS feed, and together they figured out how to attach audio files to it. The RSS feed became the underground railway. The MP3 file became the broadcast, and podcasting in its primitive form was born. In 2004, the word podcast was first coined in The Guardian, and by 2005, Apple adopted the format into iTunes. Within 48 hours of the announcement, more than 1 million subscriptions had been made. A niche tool for nerds on the fringes of the internet had become a tab in iTunes, and everything changed. The late 2000s were the era of the early adopters. Ricky Gervais drawing millions of downloads, The American Life pushing narrative journalism into digital form, Twit launching tech radio online before live streams existed. The shows weren't perfect, but they were personal and the audience became loyal. They proved you didn't need perfect audio, and the runway was starting to open up for podcasting. Then came Serial. In 2014, Sarah Koenig told a true crime story about a Baltimore murder that captivated the world. The first season was downloaded over 68 million times, and by 2016, it passed 80 million. That one show shifted podcasting from cult to mainstream. It was reviewed in newspapers, debated in classrooms, parodied on SNL. Podcasting was no longer a niche format. It was starting to enter the media conversation, and after Serial, the floodgates opened. Between 2015 and 2020, podcasting evolved again. Spotify arrived and they bought Anchor. They bought podcast network Gimlet too. They were building their empire. Soon after, Joe Rogan signs a $100 million exclusive deal. Alex Cooper signs for 60 million. Andrew Huberman, Lex Friedman, Emma Chamberlain were all turning podcasts into entire companies. Not content, companies. The creator, podcaster, entrepreneur model was forming. But the most important shift wasn't just the money being made, it was how the format was evolving. Podcasting stopped being audio only, and it became video first. Studios became stages. Audios became clips. Guests became short-form exports for TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Podcasting was everywhere. With you on a walk, doing the dishes, at the gym, in your For You page on social media, scrolling in your downtime. Everywhere we go now, we see podcasts. By the mid-2020s, the numbers were beginning to rival with traditional media. Because while TV hosts were clinging on to contracts and counting primetime slots, podcasters were building global empires from a laptop, a mic, and the loyalty of their listeners. Joe Rogan made 200 million in 2024. Jimmy Fallon made 16. Alex Cooper made 60 million. Trevor Noah made 25. Andrew Huberman, with his solo deep dives into neuroscience, brought in 30 million. Jimmy Kimmel, 15. The world's biggest podcasters are now making more money than the world's best TV hosts. Back in 2004, a Google search on the word podcast gave 6,000 search results. In 2005, 60 million. In 2021, more than 1.9 billion. And today, in 2025, there are 4.5 million distinct podcasts, 585 million episodes, and well over 100 million episodes published. This is the result of a fundamental shift in how audience consume media and how creators monetize attention. Podcasters aren't limited by traditional formats, production overheads, or network gatekeepers. They own their distribution, connect directly with loyal audiences, and turn every download into diversified revenue, ads, live shows, merch, books, courses, equity deals. TV hosts still rely on salary contracts and rating, whereas podcasters build media empires from a microphone and a laptop. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're experiencing a power transfer from old to new media, from networks to creators, from gatekeepers to anyone with a voice and a microphone. The creator economy continues to grow exponentially, outshining traditional broadcast media and even Hollywood. Podcasting is a central part now of that content ecosystem. Single podcast now has more reach than entire TV networks did 10 years ago, and the opportunity is wide open for creators to take advantage, scale communities, and build their own IP around podcasting. As Charlie Munger says, trust is one of the greatest economic forces on earth. There's a reason why presidents are showing up on the world's biggest podcasts in their political campaigning, why the biggest creators are launching their own shows as integral components of their media brand ecosystems. And for the brands that act like creators, the opportunity presents itself to you too. While the world was watching influencers chase sponsorships, another shift was happening behind the scenes, quietly and strategically. B2B brands, who usually associated with booths, brochures, and cold emails, started to build podcasts. They began to realize that trust is a better currency than impressions, and podcasting builds trust faster than any other format. The value isn't in CPMs, but in who's listening. The executive at your dream account who knows your founder's face, the employee who hears your vision and applies for the role, the customer who sees your culture and decides to say. The ROI of a podcast isn't measured in downloads, it's measured in pipeline, perception, and proximity. The best B2B companies are building thought leaders amongst their executive and management teams and collaborating with partners and prospects within their industries. I truly believe podcasting is a bridge between the digital and physical worlds, and the context and depth of connection it can bring to your ICP can transform the nature of your business. But let's make one thing clear. You don't need 1 million downloads to win in the podcasting B2B world. You need the right 500 people. Audience quality wins over quantity. Your audience is sharing a message inside Slack channels, mentioning it in interviews, forwarding it to their team. Trust is compound interest, and a podcast is an intimate relationship and connection to form with your audience. So one voice in your prospect's ear as they drive home from work. It's your CEO's vision, not read from a press release, but spoken from the heart authentically. It's the feeling your brand gives off beyond the logo and your website headline. Podcasting compounds in trust over time, week after week. And I'm relentless in my belief that podcasting is the greatest trust building weapon in the modern marketer's arsenal. Even if your marketing team says it's too saturated, no one's going to listen, the opportunities to create powerful content flywheels is incredible. And podcasts are a repurposing machine. Take that one 30 to 45 minute conversation between two humans face to face, a newsletter that sounds like a person actually wrote it, 10 short form videos for LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, a blog post from your transcript, a carousel featuring guest quotes, a behind the scenes reel for employer branding, a resource page, a case study, a customer testimonial in video format. The content keeps growing. And compare that to your competitor who's posting 200 product graphics with no story behind it. Content is king in this day and age, and we are craving that human authenticity as more AI junk content is put out there into the ether online. In a recent interview, Mark Cuban said, in the next 3 years, there'll be so much AI, particularly AI video, people won't know the difference between what they see or hear and whether or not it's real. And he's right. That's exactly why podcasting matters now more than ever. Because in a world flooded with artificial content, the most valuable thing is still authenticity. A long, unscripted thought that reveals more than just an opinion, it reveals an actual person. And podcasting cuts through the noise because it isn't trying to game the algorithm. It's trying to connect on a human level. And connection in this AI-saturated era is priceless. But the giant of podcasting in 2025 is not Spotify, not Apple, it's YouTube. Yes, YouTube is now the #1 platform for podcast consumption in the world. And not only for watching, but also for discovery. Spotify is just behind in second, and Apple has fallen behind. Because now video podcasting is the future. 70% of podcast listeners say they discover new shows on YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, has over 2 billion monthly active users. It rewards the kind of content podcasts already excel at: deep, intentional, authentic storytelling. But most brands are still asleep. They're posting unedited webinars with generic titles, skipping thumbnails. They don't optimize for watch time or hook the viewer in the beginning of the video, or package the show for real top of funnel discovery. But the brands who get it, they're treating YouTube not as a launchpad for discovery, but writing compelling titles that tease the truth, creating thumbnails that spark curiosity, and they're breaking down their shows into segments, playlists, and topical clips. And they're the ones dominating. YouTube is one of the greatest platforms to drive pipeline, and it's still early. The opportunity is there. 2005 was the iTunes era. 2025 is the YouTube era. In 2005, the podcasting industry was worth 10 million. Today, it's worth 30 billion. And by 2032, it's projected to reach 172 billion. And yet, 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 10. Publish 21 episodes, and you're already in the top 1%. Podcasting rewards those who keep showing up consistently, week after week, year after year. The long game is where the real value lies over time. So whether you're a creator, a B2B software company, an oil and gas service company, manufacturer, fashion, marketing agency, whatever niche you're in, starting a podcast today, investing in it for 3 to 5 years, you'll come back and thank me, I promise you, from the bottom of my heart. So if you're curious about starting a podcast, reach out to me and let's start your podcast today.